Hello everyone, I'm Darren again. Today's topic is looking at how dark personality types con and gaslight people into toxic, abusive relationships or convince them to join cults, and how they condition them to keep them there and to comply. In this video, I'll look at the tactics they use and why they work on people. Now, this could be a narcissistic person you've started dating or has maybe wormed their way into some area of your life. Could be a cult leader, eager for new followers, or maybe someone in charge of some kind of group or movement. But regardless of the situation, it is someone who maybe recognizes you have something of value to them, something they can exploit. And I'm not just talking about opportunists, people who chance their luck. It generally doesn't take us long to see through the lies and fake persona of someone who's trying to sell snake oil. I'm talking about highly skilled manipulative people who have a finely tuned ability to convince people into not trusting their own judgment by hijacking their instincts. They target their cognitive dissonance and they weaken their critical thinking skills. But just so you know what you're up against, dark personality types have a combination of personality traits that includes narcissism, and this is having an overinflated sense of self-importance and superiority. They believe themselves to be highly entitled and they lack empathy for others. Then there's psychopathy, and this is being callous, lacking remorse, and having a disregard for the rights and well-being of others. There's Machiavellianism, which is being duplicitous and highly manipulative. And lastly, there's sadism, and this is taking pleasure in the pain and misery of others, either inflicting it for their own enjoyment or just to control and dominate. Sometimes it's both. So how do people like this con others into becoming involved with them, going along with their schemes and scams, or becoming part of their group, even getting into a relationship with them? Well, they do it in stages, and they do it a little piece at a time. Because first of all, whenever you meet them, they tend to be very pleasant, friendly, they're charming, but they're watching, they're studying, and they're paying attention. They want to know about you. Where are you from? What are you interested in? What is it you think about this, and what do you think about that? But they also want to know about your hopes for the future, your ambitions, what's missing in your life, what prevents you from doing whatever it is you're wanting to do. And they can be very encouraging. They learn about you and they start to reflect back what they hear and what they see. Now, people generally recognize that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. But there is also a part of us that is hardwired to look for opportunity as much as it is for threat. So they don't just offer you paradise on earth. Whatever it is you want, they want the same thing. So what they do is they create a fantasy, a shared fantasy, and they offer it to you. And they can be very accomplished actors. They seem genuine, and they become the very thing you feel is missing in your life. Now that could be love, resources, opportunities to succeed at something, or maybe the chance to become part of something special. But whatever your desire, whatever it is you feel you lack, or whatever it is you want to improve, well, that's what they have, that's what they are. And you buy into the fantasy. Now, as time goes on, they want to learn more about you. They want to know about your fears, your regrets, your secrets, any past traumas. And what they're really looking for are things they can exploit or utilize at a later date. Now, in the early stages of a relationship, in small, seemingly innocent ways, they begin to plant seeds of doubt in your mind whenever you're talking. They pick up on minor discrepancies, or something doesn't make sense to them, or that wasn't what they had heard about whatever it was. And these little seemingly innocent conversations lay the foundations for them to get people to doubt themselves whenever the gaslighting increases. Because if you were mistaken about one small trivial thing, they'll try to convince you you're wrong about a lot of things. Now, another long-term manipulation tactic is they might ask you to do things you wouldn't normally do, maybe just little favors for them. Something like maybe tell a little white lie to someone on their behalf to cover up for them or make an excuse. And they'll present it as if it's not too much to ask. The thing is though, they're not just testing you, they're also conditioning you to do more and more for them. Because they will remind you of your dishonesty, your actions, your choices, whenever you begin to say no, whenever you try to break away. Next, as time goes on, they create a them and us mentality. Others mean harm, others want to destroy. Now they might claim it's due to envy or just because they're evil and nasty, but one way or another, others shouldn't be listened to. And this works in the sense that it isolates people from other sources of information and from different perspectives. But it also works in the sense that if someone tries to warn you, well, you've already been told they have an ulterior motive. So they portray people as good or bad, as being allies or villains. They themselves might even play the victimized hero and claim this gives them a sense of moral immunity. Because whatever it is they're doing, even if it seems cruel and callous, even if it's illegal, they'll claim it's for the greater good. So what we often see are double standards, but they can also be very good at a psychological sleight of hand, where they can shift contexts to excuse themselves while also condemning others for doing the same thing. And they may even have examples of bad things that happen to them or bad things that happen to other people they're trying to protect. But it's generally a one-sided version with no real context. And this prevents people from challenging them because they don't want to be seen as someone who hurts a hurt person. Next, they reinforce the good versus bad narrative by using emotional reasoning and emotional interpretations of the facts rather than using reason. Now, this can involve outrage, being dismissive, laughing at other people's stupidity, or playing the victim. They also use labels and slurs against those who question, doubt, or challenge. And again, this prevents people from questioning out of fear of those labels, fear of those slurs. There's the fear of rejection, the fear of being seen as the enemy. They also use logical fallacies and false dichotomies to plant generalizations, such as good people do this and bad people do that. And this can create cognitive dissonance in people, and over time it can coerce them into conforming with the narrative to avoid that dissonance. Because if other people are bad, you don't want to be associated with bad. Another common form of manipulation is triangulation. And a highly skilled manipulator isn't just going to bring people in to induce jealousy. They also bring other people in to reinforce their narrative. In coercive relationships, people might hear things like, "My doctor said you have to stop being like that because it's making me ill," or "My therapist said you're abusive." So they use what you might call trusted experts to back them up. They'll claim that other people, friends, colleagues and so on, all agree with them, all agree with their opinion and their position. So it's another way of isolating people, and it can cause them to doubt themselves. No one wants to be in a minority of one. No one wants to disagree with the experts. Now, if others are agreeing with the narcissistic person, it could be that they don't know the full story, only the version they were told. Or it could be because they're all in an echo chamber where everyone has the same opinions, same beliefs, and the same talking points. Now, an easy way to spot an echo chamber and groupthink is when people keep repeating the same slogans but cannot go into any depth about what they mean. Rather, they respond with word salad, insults, or accusations. And this could be a sign that their critical thinking has been inhibited by the group narrative. Another common way they condition people is to hijack their attention with sudden dramas, crises, or threats of some kind. A sudden crisis or a disaster can create a sense of urgency to comply. And when this happens, the narcissistic person usually presents it as what it means to them, rather than what it actually is. And terrible things will happen if you don't do whatever it is you have to do right now to prevent it or to fix it. And lastly, in order to keep people from leaving or exposing them, way back at the beginning, they wanted to know all about you, your fears, your regrets, your secret shames, things you told them in confidence. And during the relationship or the time you spent with them, they may have talked you into doing things that went against your character, but you were led to believe that you were maybe disloyal if you refused. An example would be, in the case of the cult NXIVM, the members were encouraged to share their dark secrets, give intimate pictures of themselves, anything the leader could use as leverage, and the members had all been conditioned to comply. It can be the same in personal relationships because they have learned about you and you've been conditioned not to say no, and you've been conditioned to trust them, so you share things with them. And all of these things are brought up as leverage against you. If you leave, they'll expose you. If you disagree, they'll expose you. If you tell anyone anything, they'll expose you. They'll use your regrets, your shame, your poor choices, the things you did for them that they asked you to do, as leverage to keep you compliant. So that's a brief outline of how dark personality types gain and maintain control over others. But do remember, this kind of manipulation doesn't take place in an afternoon. It can be very subtle. It can take place over weeks, months, sometimes even years. And in some cases, some narcissistic types could well have already cultivated a reputation for themselves. So you may have already heard stories from their friends or their followers about their good works and their great deeds. Stories about them being kind, generous, and decent, or whatever. So you have a preconceived image of them in your head. And when you meet them for the first time, whether it's on a first date or at an event of some kind, they're very friendly, charismatic, and this reinforces what you heard about them. In some cases, they may even have done a little homework on you, finding out about your past, your family, your friend network, and so on. So they already know what you like, what you don't like, and what you're interested in. And spotting these people isn't always easy, certainly not at first anyway. They often hide in plain sight. But if you'd be interested in learning some ways to identify dark personality types, cult leaders, narcissistic psychopaths, let me know in the comments section. I'll put a video out on it. But in the meantime, if you find this topic to be helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.